Our co-feature is ready to go. Danny Jacobs has always been viewed as a potential star in the making. Now, after a year of fighting on major pay-per-view undercards, he gets a taste of the spotlight shining bright on him. Tonight, he faces Jose Varela. There's Danny Jacobs, 22 years old, yet to be in very tough. 14-0 with 13 knockouts, 6'1", 161 pounds, overflowing with pure raw talent. Proud to be from Brooklyn, specifically the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, a part of New York that has produced, Teddy, some of the all-time greats of the game.
Yeah, and right next door is Bedford-Stuyvesant, and some of these fighters share those residencies. You have Mike Tyson from Brownsville, youngest heavyweight champ of all time, Floyd Patterson. He was the first two-time heavyweight champion in his day. Riddick Bowe, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad was a light heavyweight champion, good banger, southpaw. Mark Whelan, maybe the greatest amateur of all time. We talked about it earlier. He comes from Bed-Stuy, and Shannon Briggs from Brownsville. So I don't know what's in the water in that area of New York City, but I'll tell you, they're doing something right.
Yeah, Jacobs has been drinking it up. And there's Jose Varela. We've seen him before. 31 years old. He's also tall, 6'1½", 22-5, 15 knockouts. Let's take a closer look at Varela. The Nicaraguan native has been living and training in LA, and most of his fights have been in the low 150s. Tonight he moves up to 160. Says he's got one big edge over Jacobs, and that is experience. He's gone the distance with the likes of Richard Gutierrez and Edison Miranda. And that top competition he's been in with, he's hoping that pays off tonight against the 14-0 Jacobs, who we told you has been in soft, so they are scheduled for 8, and John O'Brien is the ref.
Received your instructions in the dressing room. Expect a good, clean, professional contest. Obey my commands at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. These trunks are a little bit high. Let's touch them up. Back to your corners. Good luck, gentlemen.
Teddy, it's time for the Just for Men hair color stay in the fight analysis.
Well, let's start with the undefeated fighter, Jacobs. Your opponent has lost 3 straight and is coming in on late notice, and he's smaller than you. Go to the body, be the boss. Varela, you have been in with the much better opposition, and he has never been past 6 rounds. So go land the right hand and test him late in the fight.
Round number 1, scheduled for 8. Danny Jacobs. So many have been talking about the promise of Jacobs and what lies ahead. Let's see what he offers up tonight.
Well, you touched on it already. Varela has fought the much better opposition. This is a step up for Jacobs. But his people are saying that in their mind, it's the right time because he has big edges at the time that he's taking on Varela. Varela is coming off losing his last 3 fights. He's taking the fight on 11 days notice. So those edges for Jacobs. Also, Varela, the much smaller man, turned pro, 136 pounds, moved up to welterweight. Then his last 12 fights at junior middleweight. Jacobs, a super middleweight his whole career.
Big difference there. That was 136 pounds back in 1999 for Varela. And here he comes in tonight at 161. Fought at 161 one other time, but that was against an overmatched opponent back in 2004 in his native Nicaragua.
Yeah, Jacobs, as you said, 5-time national amateur champ, 4-time New York Golden Glove champion, has that great amateur pedigree, but he's really been in soft. I think his people have said this before about these kind of prospects that have that great amateur background. They need to step up and fight better opposition. They don't need to fight soft opposition. And Jacobs has had a diet of soft opposition up until tonight, stepping up with the experienced Varela.
Jacobs giving us a glimpse of that hand speed moments ago with that combination on the inside. 14 fights in the first 14 months as a pro for the New Yorker.
Yeah, very active.
Goes to the body well there, landed a left and a right. Gets a warning, actually, for that shot that was on the belt line from referee John O'Brien.
As you said, Joe, this is the 15th fight since turning pro 16 months ago for Jacobs. Almost 1 fight every month. That's the way to do it. And again, you can do that when you're fighting the kind of opponents Jacobs, up until tonight, has been fighting.
Varela now utilizing that left hand.
You know, one of the things that I always ask, I see 14-0, 13 knockouts. You know what I'm going to say? Is that real power or real bad opponents? Well, I think, to be quite honest, up to this point for Jacobs, it's been real bad opponents. I don't think Jacobs is that kind of puncher. I think he's a good, solid prospect, knows how to fight, has been taught how to fight, is calm in the ring. But I don't think he's that kind of TNT guy. And I think you could hurt a guy giving him those kind of knockouts because you make him confused about what his identity is. He might think he's a puncher, and he's not. He's a guy that got to do other things.
Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas with you ringside at the UIC Pavilion in downtown Chicago. Danny Jacobs, the 22-year-old New York-based prospect, 14-0 with 13 knockouts. He's been showcased on so many of the big pay-per-view undercards in the past year. He was on the Pacquiao De La Hoya card, Hopkins Pavlik, Mosley Mayorga, now in co-feature status here on Friday Night Fights, and was actually a bit of a step up against Jose Varela. And Varela's been in tough, and he's lost 3 straight against the likes of Gutierrez, Joel Julio, and Saul Roman. But with the competition Jacobs has faced, this is actually a step-up fight for him.
There's no doubt about that. And again, he has the edges. His people were smart about it. They said, okay, we're going to step up on this date on ESPN, on national television. Let's make sure we have the edges while we're stepping up. And again, Varela coming in on 11 days' notice. Varela, the smaller man throughout his career, and Varela in the midst of a 3-fight losing streak.
Teddy, at the end of the first round, you brought up a very interesting point in theory about Danny Jacobs having 13 knockouts early on in his career and potentially getting a false sense of maybe what he is as a fighter because of the competition he's been in.
Yeah, they had him on a real soft food diet. I mean, pretty much a liquid diet, to be quite honest. And
oh, there's a good right hand by Jacobs.
It looks like Varela.
It's over.
It's just staying there.
Stay down, stay down, stay down.
Just like that, Danny Jacobs says, hello, ESPN. His first co-feature fight in this kind of a spotlight. And boy, oh boy, did he just enjoy the spotlight. Big time with the right hand.
And a heck of a time for me to show how brilliant I am to be talking about Jacobs not being the kind of puncher that his record would indicate. I'm still going to stand by that, but brilliant time for me to bring that up as he scores a knockout.
Anything can happen at any point. This was a big one. The Brooklyn-based Danny Jacobs, watch out.
And again, the jab, setting it up. The right hand. He goes downstairs to get his eyes downstairs. That right hand downstairs sets up the right hand upstairs, and then right on the tip of the chin. Take another look right there. The right hand downstairs, not a lot of damage, but gets his eyes down. He's looking down, never sees the right hand coming. And to be quite honest with you, the body language looked like Varela did not want to continue, did not want to overcome that knockdown and eventually the knockout. But again, the punching downstairs, good technique. And to me, that's what Jacobs is. He's a pretty good technical fighter. He has all that amateur background. And I'm going to say it again, at the risk of looking even sillier after he scores a nice knockout. He is not a monster puncher. He's a guy who's going to have to use his jab. He's a guy who's going to have to keep his work rate up. He's a guy who's technically going to have to be responsible. And he's a guy that's going to have to be consistent as he steps up the boxing ladder.
Here's ring announcer Thomas Treiber with the particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the official time. 1 minute, 29 seconds of round number 2. Our referee in charge, John O'Brien, waves off the count of 10. Your winner by way of knockout and still undefeated, Danny Jacobs.
Danny Jacobs, one of the top amateurs in recent years, now a prized prospect. And as we told you earlier, the possibility of turning right around now and fighting on the big pay-per-view card out in Vegas.
In that show,
go to yourhealth.com.
I think that it probably makes sense. Who is the opponent?
I believe Mike Walker is here.
Yeah, Mike Walker. Mike Walker's best effort so far has been with